The maps to redraw congressional seats in the state of Texas has sparked efforts across the nation to add more seats for each political party in the House of Representatives in Congress, and do all of this before the upcoming midterm elections. Now, while the redrawn maps here in Texas have started to face legal challenges, other states like California have announced they're going to be doing the same thing and redrawing their maps. Joining us today to talk about this and now the national effort is Texas A&M Professor of Political Science, Mr. Kirby Goydell. Kirby, always good to see you, sir.
Always good to talk to you.
Thank you for joining us. I want to first start off with the legal issues just here in the state of Texas with everything that's happened. We learned yesterday the NAACP is filing a lawsuit to try and stop this. They say the redrawn maps are discriminatory, racial discrimination, gerrymandering. What do you think is going to come of the legal challenges just here in Texas alone?
Well, if I'm being honest, I don't know. What we do know from sort of prior court rulings is that partisan gerrymandering is allowed. You can gerrymander a state to try to give an advantage to a political party. What you can't do is you can't gerrymander in order to dilute the voice of minority voters. And there's a question about whether this particular map does that. Because on the one hand, what it does is when we talk about gerrymandering, we often talk about cracking, diluting and dividing vote, or packing, putting a bunch of minority voters in a single district. This map packs minority voters into single districts, but it also creates more majority Hispanic districts and two majority black districts. I don't know how the courts will decide this.
Can you go into detail on the defense that the Republicans have given in this process? They have said, look, we're doing this because Democrats have done this, but the Democrats have said, yeah, we've done it, just not at this time. What does that mean when they say it's not the same as when they've done it? Talk about the Democrats. They're saying the Republicans aren't doing it at the same time like they've done it in the past. What does all that mean?
Yeah, Texas looks to be a trendsetter. Texas has done a mid-cycle redistricting before in 2003. So this is not entirely new, but it is unusual. Every 10 years, there's a census. Seats are reapportioned, so you know how many seats each state gets. The districts are redrawn, and usually they stay that way unless there's a court ruling. This is unusual in that this is completely politically motivated, and so it was motivated by the idea of go get 5 more seats. So yes, Democrats absolutely do it. They've done it every time they control power. They try to maximize the Democratic advantage in the state, but the timing of this is unusual.
I'm hoping you can explain to our viewers the difference in how it's done here in Texas versus states like California. So here in Texas, it's the lawmakers who are redrawing the maps. But in California, you know, California is saying, oh, we're going to do the same thing. But it's not necessarily lawmakers in California. They have a whole commission that does this. Can you go into detail about that?
Yeah, so the difference is different states have taken different approaches to gerrymandering, or really redistricting. I shouldn't call them all gerrymandering, though most of it is. So in some states, what they have done is they have created independent commissions to try to remove some of the partisanship from the districting process. And so in some states, it's clearly partisan. In other states, there are these commissions that are in place to draw the map so that they're more fairly drawn.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of other states redrawing their maps successfully in between now and the midterms of next year?
Yeah, so I'm really curious what happens when this becomes a court case and what the court might say. I do think we've kind of opened Pandora's box here, because every state now is looking to see, well, could we get another seat? Could we get another seat for the Democrats, for the Republicans? The divisions in the U.S. Congress are really, really narrow. Just 3 seats divide the Republicans and the Democrats. That difference is really important in terms of Trump's second term. And so they're looking for advantages everywhere. I don't think we really want, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, or you're in a Democratic state or a Republican state, I don't really think we want the politicians redrawing the lines every time to try to control the election outcome.
Got only a few seconds left. What do you think is going to be some of the bigger challenges for these lawmakers or candidates as these lines get redrawn and then they're put into new territory, new areas or cities or communities that they're not familiar with?
Yeah, so one of the questions about representation is how do you represent your voters, and knowing who your voters is very helpful in terms of an ability to communicate their views. And one of the things that these maps do is they change districts that represented pretty well defined communities. So now there are questions about, do you really have good representation of urban voices in Texas? Do you really have good representation of coastal voices in Texas, or of voices from districts that are completely in the border? On a lot of those districts now, you have more combination of urban and rural. You have a greater combination of inland and coastal, and you have a greater combination of border and non-border. And so, can you really represent people if they're very diverse? It's harder, right? The more diverse your population is, the harder it is to represent your voters.
All right, Professor Kirby Goydell at Texas A&M University, one of our go-to political experts for this kind of stuff. We always appreciate you, sir. Good to see you.